Right. Okay. In the first half of this year, 1 out of every 12 albums sold in the United States was like the exact same record. So welcome to the debate.
Yeah, unfortunately. Look, what you actually hear when you listen to Taylor Swift's The Tortured Poets Department and, its surprise double album expansion, The Anthology, depends entirely on whether you are actually willing to engage with human vulnerability.
Or if you live in reality.
Or if you're just going to run the numbers like you always do. Because I'm looking at a profound, incredibly messy 31-song dissection of grief.
Right. Sure.
It is a literal lifeline written by a woman desperately trying to survive the total collapse of her personal life, all while being absolutely crushed by the burden of global fame.
Oh, give me a break. Or, and hear me out here, you're romanticizing the most ruthless, algorithmically optimized corporate content dump of the 21st century.
A content dump? Are you serious?
Yes! You're calling it a lifeline. I'm calling it a monopoly. Like we are looking at a brilliant, unstoppable supply chain flex that mathematically guaranteed chart dominance.
You are so deeply allergic to emotion that you're treating a literary confession like it's a quarterly earnings report.
Because it is a quarterly earnings report.
No, it is a creative triumph, precisely because it abandons the traditional polished pop formulas. She literally explicitly calls this fountain pen writing.
Oh, wow. Fountain pen writing.
Yes, and what that means in her artistic lore is that the lyrics prioritize messy, obsessive, stream of consciousness detail over tight, radio-friendly hooks. She isn't trying to make a catchy summer hit here.
Uh-huh.
She's trading structural perfection for psychological realism. She had to write these 31 tracks. It's a real-time mapping of the 5 stages of grief during this incredibly fleeting and fatalistic period of her life.
Oh, please. A round of applause for the fountain pen poetry. It's incredibly touching, really, honestly. But let's look at the actual ink on the ledger.
I really don't want to.
Too bad. 2.61 million equivalent album units in week 1, 1.914 million traditional sales, 891.34 million streams. Those 31 tracks you think are a lifeline to process her grief?
They are.
No, that is a calculated volume strategy. It has absolutely nothing to do with processing sadness and everything to do with hacking the Billboard 200 algorithm.
How is pouring out 2 hours of devastating music a hack? Explain that to me.
Because of how chart math works. Look, the Billboard 200 equates a certain number of streams. It's about like 1,250 premium audio streams to 1 album sale.
Okay, and?
And by dropping 31 tracks instead of a standard 12-track pop record, she is mathematically guaranteeing that passive listening will double her equivalent sales. Fans just hit play, let it run, and the sheer volume of tracks inflates the streaming yield.
So she just shouldn't release art because of math?
It's not a narrative choice to give you 31 songs. It's an A/B-tested supply chain hack to ensure she consumed 8% of the entire U.S. album market early in the year. It's not grief, it's market flooding.
See, you reduce everything to mechanics, everything. You're completely ignoring the actual sonic architecture of the album.
Sonic architecture. Right.
Yes. If you take your eyes off the market share statistics for 2 seconds and actually listen to the production, you'd realize the sound itself perfectly mirrors psychological trauma.
I'm listening. Really, I am. I hear very expensive synthesizers.
You hear clinical depression. Look at the first half of the album, the standard 16 tracks produced by Jack Antonoff.
Yeah, the synth pop guy.
Take the lead single, Fortnight. There is this suffocating, heavy synth bass pressing down on the entire track, paired with these hushed, incredibly dry programmed drums.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't sound like a pop anthem. It mimics the physical sensation of anhedonia. That drum beat is the numb, thudding heartbeat of someone who is completely empty inside.
Wow.
And then you get the surprise second half, the anthology, produced by Dessner. It shifts into this acoustic Southern Gothic melodrama.
I'm sorry, Southern Gothic melodrama? Really?
Yes. Listen to Florida. Florence Welch comes in with these massive, raw drums in this desperate, wailing vocal delivery. And the vocal mixing throughout the anthology is incredibly dry and isolated.
Yeah, it's called a vocal preset.
There's no heavy reverb to make it sound stadium-ready. It forces you to sit uncomfortably close to the narrator. It's not just music. It's a Victorian confession. It's a woman sitting in a dimly lit room, unraveling her darkest impulses.
A Victorian confession. That is a fascinating, highly marketable illusion you've completely bought into.
It's not an illusion, it's production.
Let me explain the mechanism behind that numb heartbeat and that dimly lit room. What you are calling sonic architecture is literally just demographic A/B testing for user retention.
It's an artistic collaboration.
It's a corporate hedge. Look, Jack Antonoff is deployed on the first 16 tracks to service the Midnights demographic, the fans who want synthpop.
You're making it sound like a military operation.
Aaron Dessner is deployed 2 hours later to retain the folklore and evermore indie demographic. It's designed so no segment of the consumer base churns out.
That is so cynical.
And that dry, isolated vocal makes you think sounds like a Victorian poet? That is a calculated, algorithmic aesthetic. Spotify's engagement data heavily favors close mic, dry vocals for its massive sad girl and intimate playlists.
Oh my God.
It creates a parasocial sense of proximity that prevents listeners from skipping the track. You think she's sitting in a room with you. I'm telling you, it's a sonic template engineered to trigger playlist placement.
It must be exhausting to listen to a piece of art and only hear a spreadsheet. I really pity you. The aesthetic choices are cohesive across the board. Not just on Spotify, you are taking a massive, immersive world-building project and cynically dismissing it as gamification.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought up world building. Because the rollout strategy proves exactly what this is. Let's talk about the alternate reality game, the ARG marketing.
It was brilliant.
The Spotify pop-up library at the Grove in LA. They built a physical card catalog with 72 drawers, but wait. Only 6 of those drawers were open. Why 6?
Because it was symbolic.
Because her heavily publicized relationship with Joe Alwyn lasted 6 years. It is blatant, gamified exploitation of her private life to drive internet buzz. She is literally feeding gossip disguised as literature.
It's not gossip, it's semiotics. She is using the public's obsession with her life and turning it into an interactive puzzle. You're completely ignoring the brilliance of the Apple Music word hunt.
Oh, you mean the stunt where fans had to comb through the lyrics of old songs to find hidden capitalized letters? That is not semiotics. That is engagement farming.
No, it's not.
She turned millions of passive listeners into unpaid, obsessive marketing interns to drive up back catalog streams right before the new album dropped?
No, you're completely missing the mechanism of why that word hunt was so artistically significant. The words fans found were, hereby conduct this post-mortem, but they weren't just hidden randomly.
Yeah, they were hidden where the engagement was lowest.
Stop. She organized her entire back catalog into 5 specific playlists, each representing one of the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
Very original.
By making the fans search through those specific playlists, she was forcing them to chronologically trace the psychological collapse of a relationship. When the words spell out, "We hereby conduct this postmortem," it perfectly sets up the thesis of the album, specifically the track "How Did It End?"
Right.
It's a critique of the public sitting around like coroners dissecting her heartbreak.
Wow, interactive poetry. A critique of the public dissecting her heartbreak. That is just a beautiful sentiment. Tell me, how many physical variants of this interactive poetry did her team manufacture to exploit that exact same public?
Physical media is a standard industry practice.
19. There were 19 different physical variants of this album.
So what?
6 vinyls, 9 CDs, 4 cassettes. And my absolute favorite, the Target-exclusive Phantom Clear vinyl that magically included an acoustic bonus track.
Fans like collecting things.
If this is a deeply personal critique of how the public consumes her trauma, why is she leveraging FOMO, the fear of missing out, to manipulate her superfans into buying the exact same album 19 times?
It's not manipulation.
Is exploiting the completionist anxiety of a teenager also part of the 5 stages of grief? Because to me, it looks like monopolistic capitalism.
The variants are collectibles for a dedicated fan base, but they are completely secondary to the thematic core of the record. You keep dodging the actual substance of the lyrics because you know it undermines her corporate narrative.
I really don't.
Her piece, A Female Rage. It is a systematic deconstruction of the good girl persona she's been trapped in for 15 years.
Female rage. Please define how an incredibly wealthy, universally beloved pop star sitting at the top of the global economy is expressing meaningful rebellion.
By aggressively setting boundaries with the very people who gave her that power. Listen to Butt Daddy, I Love Him. It is a scalding, brilliant literary attack on her own judgmental fan base.
Oh, yeah, attacking the customers. Bold strategy.
People who think that buying her album gives them the right to moralize her personal choices. She literally sings about burning her whole life down just to spite the wine moms and vipers in empaths clothing who try to control her.
Sure.
And then you have Clara Bow, which is a tragic, self-aware look at the music industry's meat grinder. The endless cycle of finding a shiny new girl to replace the old one. She is risking her meticulously crafted public image to finally say, I am a flawed human being and you don't own me. That takes immense courage.
Courage. Risking her image? Are we talking about the same person? She held the #1 spot on the Billboard 200 for 17 weeks. She didn't risk a single dime.
That doesn't mean it wasn't emotionally risky.
But I'll bite on your point about setting boundaries with toxic observers, because there is a terrifying paradox here that you are just conveniently ignoring. Let's talk about the critical reception. Pitchfork gave the album a 6.6 and a 6.0, noting that it was bloated and needed an editor.
Pitchfork has an institutional bias against earnest pop music. Everyone knows that.
Oh, okay, forget Pitchfork. Do you remember the Paste magazine review? They gave it a 3.6 out of 10.
Because they wanted clicks.
The writer correctly pointed out the absurdity of the album's hyper-dramatic literary posturing, literally writing, Sylvia Plath didn't put her head in an oven for this. It was harsh, sure, but it was music criticism. Do you remember what happened next?
The internet overreacted, which literally happens every single day.
The internet didn't just overreact. Paste magazine had to fundamentally alter their editorial standards and remove the writer's name from the byline.
Well,
why? Because the parasocial militia that you just called a dedicated fan base immediately began doxing the critic and sending credible death threats. The exact same thing happened during the Lover era.
You can't blame her for that.
So I have to ask you, is it really female rage and boundary setting when your fans terrorize independent journalists into witness protection? That is not an artist reclaiming her humanity. That is an untouchable monopoly enforcing silence.
That is completely unfair.
The supposed victim of public scrutiny is actually the most powerful enforcer in the industry.
You are completely conflating the art with the worst behavioral extremes of internet culture. You cannot blame a songwriter's vulnerability for the actions of anonymous trolls on Twitter. The art itself is a pure expression of pain.
Oh, absolutely pure.
Look at I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. The cognitive dissonance of being severely depressed, crying in your dressing room, and then being forced by your obligations to walk out onto a stadium stage and smile for 70,000 people. That is a brutal, crushing reality for a woman in her position.
It's her job.
Just because the fans are unhinged doesn't make her articulation of that pain any less authentic.
Authentic? You were talking about a song that was literally repackaged into Female Rage the Musical as a highly choreographed segment for a tour that grossed over $1 billion.
So she's not allowed to perform her own songs?
When an artist benefits from a rabid fan base buying 19 variants, you call it interactive world building. But when that exact same fan base threatens to murder critics,
psychological collapse, and you just see profit margins and algorithms. It's sad, but whether you want to admit it or not, the Tortured Poets Department is going to be remembered as a massive, vital cultural artifact.
Okay.
It is the sound of a woman taking the public autopsy of her life and turning it into a sprawling, unapologetic piece of art.
And I maintain that history will remember it as the ultimate masterclass in market dominance. 8 times platinum, 1.76 billion streams in a single week.
Metrics, again.
It is a monument to weaponized fan psychology and algorithmic manipulation. She didn't just beat the industry, she consumed it.
Right. Well, we are clearly never going to find middle ground on this.
Never.
But for anyone listening who still values emotional resonance over data points, do yourself a favor. Go find the acoustic version of The Black Dog. Put on a good pair of headphones, ignore the charts, and just let the rawness of the songwriting actually make you feel something for once.
And for everyone else, don't forget to set your alarms. I'm sure that 20th vinyl variant, the Witness Protection Edition perhaps, will be dropping any day now to make sure that Billboard Top 14 streak stays alive.
You are impossible. That's it. We're done for today. Goodbye.